Welcome to MegaBucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put MegaBucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hershberger.
Well, welcome to today's show. I am excited. I've got Michelle Pippin on the call today. We have been trying to make this arrangement to have this show for months. When I saw she was on my calendar, Michelle, I was so excited to have you on here. As I'm looking at your bio, you started out with like $50, and you bootstrapped your way to 7 figures. So this is the kind of show that I love, getting into all those details. But so welcome to today's show, Michelle.
Thank you. And I have been so looking forward to this. Honest to God, if you saw my to-do list since August, like every few pages you'd see Nina show, Nina show. And so we've had a little bit of some personal issues, a couple of deaths and stuff. So I've had a little chaotic end of 2024. So I was equally thrilled to be on here with you. And, you know, $50 was not me being frugal. Like, it's literally all I had because my husband is now and was then a public school teacher. And I was working for the city in the Department of Social Services, and I was pregnant. And back then, my oldest is 26. And so back then I was thinking, like, I want to make money. I have to make money, right? I'm married to a public school teacher. But I didn't want to put my kids in daycare. And this is like no judgment on another woman who does daycare. For me, I didn't want that. And so back then, you might have heard rumors of people working from home, but you didn't know anyone who actually made any real money from home. And so I took the $50 and I just went on my anything for money tour, which is a funny my first year is so funny, but I did make $63,000 that year. And I turned that $50 into $63,000, and I still didn't feel like a success. And I like to say that because I think a lot of people in the digital marketing world in particular, but just online for any business, it's easy to feel like you're underperforming, right? Like, I didn't know I was a success that first year because I was still kind of just making ends meet. I didn't know how business was supposed to work. And I think a lot of people will look at somebody who's like touting, 6 figures in 6 days or, whatever, and they feel like they're losing at the game. And I just like to say that, like, I was winning and had no idea. And a lot of people here, it's like, when you're in business, you're turning over sales, you're serving people well, you are a success, and it can just keep growing for you.
So what did you do for that $63,000 that first year?
Oh, woman. It was my anything for money tour. And I like to say if it was almost legal, I did it. But I did things like I would, by the way, I didn't have a list, right? Like, so I used my wedding list. I just got married. So I used that list because they would know my name or my parents' name or my husband's name or his parents' name. And I knew enough back then, even I don't know where it came from, but I decided to send out 10 letters. Basically, the letter was, I'm having a baby. I'd like to work from home. Here are some ideas of things I could do for you. Can we meet and see if there's anything that I can do, right? And then the next week, I would call those first 10 people and then send out 10 more letters. That was the whole strategy. And what I ended up doing, essentially, I called myself an at-home secretary because the term virtual assistant hadn't been created. But I typed water reports for embassies overseas. Like, as an aside, don't ever drink the water overseas. It's nasty. But I would type those water reports. I would type up for different attorneys. I would type up divorce depositions. I did resumes for people. I was the kind of the public face for these panels called community advisory panels. They were chemical companies or plastic companies were required to host them in different communities. So I would take questions from the community. So basically anything that somebody would pay me for. I took donations for a political person and sent off thank you letters, forging his name. Anything that anything that they pay me to do from home that didn't involve me being on the phone because, I had a baby by that time, that I did that. Yeah. So it was a long list.
And so, okay, year one ends, and then you got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do next? So now what happened?
Well, I really, so at that point, I wanted to kind of get a little bit more official. And because I felt like I was, I don't know how to say it, like the money, I made $63,000 that year, but I was nervous about money a lot, right? Because I always kind of like, I was eating what I killed, if that makes sense. And so one of my earliest mentors from college approached me about starting an HR company together. And so she had the HR experience. I happened to have an HR degree, but no experience. And we essentially did for a couple years, we provided employee manuals for small companies. And this was like big business back then. And, there's a lot of money being made, but I hated the work that I did. Like, I'm more free to be you and me, very, very like hippie chick. So, dotting every I, crossing every T, going in and making sure the stupid signs were on the wall for the clients. Like, I hated the work. And so, anyway, I was young and foolish maybe, but I decided that I had known that when I quit my job after the first baby was born, I had $213 in savings, right? I took $50 of that to start the business. I had no backup plan. We had no credit cards. Like, it was really like my back was against the wall. And so after the HR company, I thought, you know what? If I put my back against the wall financially, I'm going to make it as a coach. But back then, business coaches, I don't know if they all lived in the same multi-million-dollar house on the beach, but, that was kind of the flavor back then. Like, if you're going to be anything relating to business, you had to be a gazillionaire, right? At least that's kind of how it was. And I'm thinking maybe around 2005-ish at this time. And so I said, I'll be a life coach, which was interesting because I'm a really terrible life coach. But I'm an excellent marketer, which meant I got found out to be a terrible life coach really quickly. And so I did a little stint as a life coach, but I was more like, if you would say, something to me that you were struggling with, if you brought it up the next week, like, I'm literally saying, we addressed that last week. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, move on to your next issue. And so not very great at life coaching, but I found that I was really great at marketing. And I'll tell you what gave me the confidence to go into business strategy and copywriting, because at my core, I'm a writer. I love to write. But I was mailing something off at the local post office, and a lady standing in front of me had, she owned a reptile company. They did like traveling reptile parties. And I knew that they were in our local like advertorial magazine. And so she and I were talking, it's a long line, and I had like this little scrap sheet of paper. And I wrote down, I was like, I love business. I love small business. I was like, here, like, do this, say this. And I wrote stuff down. I handed it to her. And she was like grateful, but I never knew if I'd see her again at that point. And she saw me like a month and a half later, and she had tripled her income, her sales, based on what I wrote on that little scrap sheet of paper. And so by this time, I was kind of getting some confidence. I started to read about business and figured even my Anything for Money tour was pretty decent, for what, 1999 or 1998. So I started getting the confidence, and I just put myself out there, not as a business coach because it really wasn't a thing so much, but more as like a copywriter, business strategist. I got into the Dan Kennedy world, and just really have never looked back. I started Women Who Wow essentially because I didn't like the pressure I felt like of the one-on-one business client. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of that, I was writing for them, and I really just wanted to write for myself. And so I started WOW to impact more women, help more women entrepreneurs make the money they deserve and know they deserve, and without the one-on-one kind of appointment setting and, all of that. I wanted more time freedom.
So what year was that, Michelle, that you started the Women Who Wow?
That would have been 2017, and I wasn't exactly, the only membership, honestly, besides like AAA or something like that I was aware of was Dan Kennedy. And at that time, I'd already seen Dan, sell his company to Bill Glazer, it changed hands a few different times. And so I wasn't exactly sure the form that Women Who Wow would take, but honestly, we started with in-person 4-hour meetings once a month. And essentially, it was like a little small event. And within 6 months, we had women traveling to my hometown of Chesapeake, Virginia, from 8 different states. And I just knew that I was on to something. And so at first, I started a digital component to the live event. And the live event, as an aside, like you got a print invite to attend, and you had to pay, right? The invite was to pay and attend. But people didn't come in off the street to Women Who Wow. And I really did that deliberately because I didn't want like another women's organization of kind of like the wannabe entrepreneurs that, like they're not really serious. So I wanted it to be a different, vibe than that. And so I did it invite only. And after about 6 months, I did a digital component. And then probably in 2018 or early 2019, I went full online. Because at that point, I kind of felt like I was doing my my West Coast in particular, my West Coast members like a disservice, because they're not going to fly into Virginia for a 4-hour meeting. And so they're kind of missing some of what was happening live. And so, and then since then it's been all online. We do have live events, but they're not monthly, and they're not only 4 hours. They're multi-day and it's open to the whole
community. So you transitioned within a very short time, actually, from live 4 hours once a month, kind of, and was it an implementation kind of 4 hours? Was it like hot seats?
Yes, we did do hot seats. It was not a lot of implementation. A lot of my events back then, and somewhat now with a few events being the exception, it was kind of a Michelle show, right? Like back then, my approach to business, my perspective, right? Because I had been in business for a long time at that point, and I had seen all of the BS being spewed about, and I had, I'm reading Dan Kennedy like every day. And so it was very new. Like I was talking to women who were not in the Dan Kennedy circles. And so it was really not a lot of implementation. It was, I would teach on a topic, which I would then create a newsletter out of, mail the newsletter to my members who were not, coming to the live event. The people who came got the newsletter there. And so it was really topical each month. And then we did hot seats. And then at the end of every meeting, I would say, who should be here, right? And they'd give me their name and their address, and we'd send them a print invite to pay to attend. That's really how we grew.
And so how many do you have now in your group?
We have about 630 right now. And we're getting ready to do what I would call not a member drive. We've never really done that. But I have had a couple of years where I've kind of just coasted. I lost my brother and only sibling in 2022, and then several people in 2023, and then in 2024. And so it's kind of been a time of, just not hibernation for me. I've still been active. I've still had my members, but I haven't really done a big push. And I'm feeling the excitement of that, which is really, really exciting to me. When you come out of a period of deep grief, feeling those embers burning again and getting ideas again. We have about 630 active members.
And how much do they pay?
Well, I'm a firm believer in never raising my prices on my people. So when I first launched the digital-only membership, the fee was $37 a month. And now I never charge by the month, as an aside. I don't believe in that. So everybody has to pay annually for Women Who Wow. So, but it was only $444 annually. And so some people have been with me since the doors opened, and they still pay $444 a year. But if people come in now, if they came in via a friends and family link, like if they come to me directly, or somebody's like, hey, this is my cousin, this is my friend, then they can come in at $897 for the year. And that's like the lowest that we charge. I think on the sales page it's $1297 for, people who just find it, which is honestly it's not often that people come in through that link. They usually are saying, so-and-so sent me to you, I heard you on this podcast, something to that effect. So whenever I can, I'll give them the friends and family link.
So now your membership, and we're going to get into the topic today. We're going to talk about 6 ways to get leads to actually come to you. But it's very fascinating because membership, and you're right, Dan, he's talked about it for years. But it's very difficult to keep members, paying members, continually year after year after year. So you're obviously doing something right.
I think what I'm doing right, if I'm completely honest, because I get asked about my memberships all the time, and I'm always an open book, right? Like, here's what I do, here's what I sell, here's what I require. So most people who try a membership and it doesn't work, or they keep having to open a new membership, right? Which is really just a digital course if it's not ongoing, essentially, right? But it's most people are listening to kind of what everybody's saying. So they'll do a $1 trial and then they pay by the month. And you know what I'm saying? Just like everything, right, in business, you've got to really consider who you're learning from. And so my first membership was $97 a month. I called it the coaching gym, right? That was the one I talked about with the Magic Jack, right? And if you do it authentically, right, if you include your members in behind the scenes of your business, if they feel included, and of course they get value, right? It's easy to keep members, but a lot of memberships are kind of they're kind of bastardized a little bit, right? They're more libraries of digital content that you get a little bit of access to every month. And nowadays, that digital content, that information, that is, that's the price of admission, right? You're getting that from AI. I guess I travel in the currency of relationship, really, and positioning with my market. Really position, and of course Dan Kennedy talks about this, but I maintain my positioning and I focus on the relationship. And I never am trying to charge. I look at the membership offers out there, and I wouldn't pay it. You know what I'm saying? For one group call, and then you get some basically YouTube video, and that's really the membership, or you get one worksheet. It's just, we have content. I do create intensives. They are always free for my members. I sell them to outsiders, but my focus is on always, what can I do to best support my people? And I'm asking that all the time. So 2 years ago, I think I gave content prompts every single day of the year, 365 days, right? Because I knew that they needed, the blank slate was keeping them from just having public conversation with their market, right? Forget the content marketing, just be in conversation. And I'm always asking, what do they need? And then I produce it and I include it in membership. And also my membership is the bulk of my income. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people have memberships as a sliver. And so they're always trying to get people to pay more, right? So it's well, you're in my membership, and they look at it they're paying $47 a month, so maybe I can get them to pay $197 for this, right? And with WOW, they stay because everything's included. If I think something up, they're getting it. And, sometimes I have things that are not, obviously live events are not included in the cost of membership. Sometimes I'll do Christian-based programs, and I don't include that in membership just because I wouldn't want people who don't share my faith to feel, that they're, it's like a bait and switch or something, so I don't include that in membership. But mostly everything is, and it's easy to keep members when you treat them like that.
Do you have an ascension model? I mean, do you do any kind of one-on-ones with people that pay at a higher rate?
Yeah, well, I do have a Women on a Mission. It's full at this time. And, for those people, I meet with them once a month, one-on-one for an extended session. So, that is an option when it's available. So I have to cap that at 30 because I don't want to spend all the time on the phone. And so I do have that. I don't talk about it. It's really, if I were to have an opening, I usually have a wait list for that. I have the 40 strategy days every year. Most people who pay for those want to get inside my model, right? Which is totally, I welcome it, and they want to create something like this on their own. So I do 40 of those a year. And I have, live events. Like I do a big media event in New York City every year. We have like the top media producers and editors, like the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine came, for 4 years. We actually stopped inviting him because one of his writers also came, and she's done at least 5 stories on our attendees. So we really curate the list. So the media that we invite are top notch, and they do stories on us. So other than that, there's no like real ascension ladder, right? Like I really celebrate when people come into Women Who Wow, try to get to know them. I don't know everybody like I once did. But they also, Women Who Wow members actually have one-on-one with me. So it's a couple times a month. They can click and like schedule 10 minutes with me. We also do, I just tried something out and I've made it a core member benefit, audio coaching, which I love, right? So it's like Facebook message. We can audio back and forth. So I try to do what I can to be really accessible to my members. And a lot of people whose memberships don't work, like they actually do the opposite. They try to get them into membership and then distance themselves so they'll pay more in some ascension model. And I just, it's just not the way I've ever done it. But, also any membership, it's very much like the gym membership, right? So a few times a year I've had to, I've doubted myself, like, oh, I should have never said this was a benefit. But most of the year, it's like 20% are using it. And, but a lot of people who come into WOW, they're really driven women. And, I really set the tone and the culture of WOW at the beginning. And so they don't need a babysitter, right? Like they're not calling me with every brain fart they have or audio messaging me. But a lot of times, like I might not hear from some of them in 4 months, 5 months. But when they need me, when they're faced with like hiring this person or a marketing campaign or whatever, they're glad they have me in their back pocket.
Interesting. And so all of it's women. You don't really have men that kind of sneak in there?
We have a few good men, right? If they come to a live event, we'll usually embarrass them. We'll play like It's Raining Men when they walk in. But that's fine with me. There's one event that I've done. Actually, I did it every year, twice a year before COVID. It's our working pajama party. And men can't come to that because we actually stay in a house together or multiple houses together. And so that I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But, there are a few good men. And they just come for the marketing and the mindset. They have tried a lot. They've actually men and women, by the time they find WOW, they've paid a lot of money on expensive coaches or programs. And they're workers, right? They did the work and it didn't work for them. And they're feeling like, what's wrong with me? And they're looking for a simple business model that's predictable, that, that they aren't chasing likes and share, they keep it more simple than that.
So if I go back to, you've got a calendar of, because you talked about you teach every month.
Yep.
In those 4 hours. So when you're teaching, are we talking about joint ventures and upsells and downsells and, lifetime value, all of those kind of subjects?
Oh, yeah. Now, just to be clear, I don't teach every month anymore, right? So now I teach an intensive. So like I might do 14-day challenge or something like that, or I might do a 6 weeks focused on positioning. So I don't do it. It's not the same as when it began, where it was once a month. So sometimes there's no live training for a month, and sometimes there's a live training once a week for 6 weeks, right? So it's we do have one, I call it the C4. So it is content, celebrity, clout, and cash report. So it's kind of like what's working now. So we do that the last Tuesday or the third Tuesday of every month. But other than that, so I'm not teaching every month, just to be clear. But when I do, yeah, I mean, some of it is I don't teach what I don't do. So I don't do joint ventures or affiliates. And I have nothing against it. I just like to keep things really pure with my market. So if I recommend you, for example, like it's not because I'm getting a kickback. It's because I really think it's going to help one of my members. So I don't do any joint ventures. So I don't teach that. I teach a lot on content marketing, old school strategies, positioning, right? Messaging, the things that I've been able to master and use for profit.
Interesting. Okay, so let's switch gears and let's talk about the 6 ways to get leads to come to you.
Yeah, so it's like 6 of the gazillion ways, right? But, I started realizing, I was talking to actually one of my members on call-in day, and she is in insurance, and she was saying that she was struggling because somebody wanted her to do some cold outreach. And it hit me. I'm like, gosh, I would never do. Even when I was broke as a joke, and I have been broke as a joke, like using water instead of contact lens solutions, broke, right? And I never did cold outreach because I just didn't feel like I'd ever be good at it. And it felt, wouldn't we all just want leads to come to us, right? That's the whole goal. And so I just kind of put together 6 different things that I do. Some of these are not new. They're like little hacks, different ways of doing what everybody else is doing to have leads come to you, but also come to you in the right positioning, right? So quick example, the strategy where somebody will say, they'll put something online. They'll say, I just finalized this whiz-bang report of 13 strategies. Drop an emoji if you want to copy, right? Something like that, right? And it tickles the algorithm beast, it does all the things. And then they give them a link. And usually the link will give them a firewall, right? Give me your email and your name, and I'll give you this free report, right? So it's kind of so that's standard. But what I do is I will, before the report is done, so I use the same strategy because it does tickle the algorithm a little bit. It gets some attention. I know who's interested, but I never have the link available. I don't ever do immediate links. And part of this is positioning, right? So I will say, comment or message me, right? If you want whatever I'm offering, say the old school playbook, comment or message me. And I'll get a bunch of comments and I'll respond to all of them. And I'll say, great, as soon as the ink's dry, I'll push it over. And this little pause, right? This little wait is really quite brilliant. I do it because I usually don't have it ready. When I'm doing this, I get the idea and I get excited. But the pause there's a lot of profit in that pause because what happens is, number one, you give them a pattern interrupt. You're not sending them to a page where they sign up. You're right away, not like everybody else messaging them, right? Number two, it allows them to wait a little bit to think about your report. To wonder about it. Sometimes they're coming to ask you, hey, did you ever send me that report, right? Because they're so used to instantaneous. And right away, the positioning is there. Does that make sense? They're waiting on you. It
does. Yeah.
And if you give them an immediate link, most people aren't even looking at it. You know what I'm saying? So you got it. That's just one simple strategy that any of us can do to get in real profit-based conversations with these social media. I don't love social media. I'm definitely not the social media expert, but I use it to my benefit. So that's just one. So it's getting the free report is not at all interesting or new, but not following in the footsteps of everybody else. Don't give them that immediate link. Let them wait a little bit, right? Let them think about it for a little bit and then show up. Even if it's a week later, the positioning is phenomenal. Hey, it's finally ready for you. Now they're thinking it took her a week to put this together. I'm definitely going for it, right? So anyway, that's one little tip of 6 of a million. But that's just one strategy. And if anybody wants this report, I'm happy to send it over to them. Really happy to send it over to them. It's really the transcript of one of our C4 calls. So just talking about what works to the members.
That's fantastic. In fact, I am looking at the time. It's always not my friend because
Right.
we could talk more and more. Maybe I need to have you on the call again.
I'd love to.
If somebody's really interested, Michelle, in even being part of your membership or in wanting to get that special report, what's the best way to do that?
Honestly, like if they're interested, come directly to me. They can message me on Facebook, is where place you can also write. I prefer, I like writing just as much as like the audio messages. But you can message me on Facebook at m.me/women who wow. So it's women plural who wow. And that way you can come directly to me. Nobody's checking it but me. You can also just email me, like literally at my Gmail account, like B as in Barbara, Michelle Pippin, Pippin @gmail.com.
Wow. You must have a big team of people that help you keep track of all of this stuff.
Oh, Lord, I do not. I have zero interest in a big team. So I have a team of about 4 people that I rely on. One is full-time. It's my oldest daughter, ironically. She came in when she became a mother. And then I have 2 other team members that are well, one is very project-based. One is more routine, but he does more of the back end for me. And I hate busy. So if I ever get too busy, like I'm going to fix that. I'm going to change something in my strategy and my system because I hate busy. And now I've got grandbabies, right? I want the time. So I'm still valuing the freedom.
Well, that's fantastic. That's exactly, as Dan would say, it's a lifestyle business.
It is. I remember the first time I had Gabby Bernstein speak at one of my events years ago in like 2009 and in New York City. And she said the word lifestyle business. It was the first time I'd ever heard about it. And I didn't know what it was. Like I wrote it down and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to figure that out. And over time, I didn't do it all at once. I had a thriving consultancy, right? And where I was copywriting and doing strategy. And I just over time allowed the membership to take over. And one by one, I fired my one-on-one clients, right? I didn't do it overnight. I don't have that penchant for risk, but I did it over time and anybody can do it.
Well, you've mastered the art of having the membership, keeping them for forever. And I'm so honored and appreciative that you spent a few minutes of your time today just even to chat about it.
Yeah, the honor is all mine. I was so looking forward to it. I really appreciated the invite and look forward to more.
Well, we're definitely going to have to reschedule and have you on again. So this is Nina Hershberger. Until next time, what would Michelle say? She would say, reach out to people and pause for a minute before you actually send them something. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's just one thing. Yeah, but stay in conversation. Conversation brings the cash. And there's no need to get all salesy on people, right? Like everyone loves to buy. They hate to be sold. So just be yourself. Make the offer because you know what it would do for them, right? Make the offer because you know it would do for them on the other side.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So thanks again, Michelle, and until next time.
Thank you for listening to MegaBucks Radio with Nina Hershberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit MegaBucksRadio.com.